So here we are again, back by Stubbornly on Popular Demand. And today I want to talk about the nature of music, the nature of nostalgia, and maybe touch a little bit on why we all watch videos like this and what I get out of making them and what I hope you get out of making them. And because I've been following this female vocals track, my excuse for using this particular song and talking about this particular song is that it features guest vocals from a very talented female vocalist with a band that never ever had guest vocalists. So this is Rush, Time Stands Still. And once I've clicked these things off and on, we'll get straight into it. Here we go. An utterly awful 1980s video for which I have very little nostalgia. So, I've been a Rush fan since, I think, 77, 78. I left the UK in 1982, and having left the UK in 1982, I didn't get an opportunity to see my favourite band in the world live until 2005 when I moved back to the UK, and they thankfully toured the very same year that I landed. And I think this was the second song in that concert at the NEC. It might have been the first. My memory of it was the first, but I looked it up later on a website, and I think it was the second song they performed. And when they performed this song, I'm not even embarrassed to admit, I wept. I wept not just because I was seeing my favorite band after decades of not being able to do that, but because the song was expressing my heart. The desire to have that moment stand still, the desire to experience that moment for the maximum duration of time. So this is a song about nostalgia. This is a song written by a 35-year-old man who's writing about nostalgia. And in a way, one of the lessons I've had to learn over the years as a storyteller is that nostalgia is not the sole purview of the old. It's possible for an 11-year-old child to have nostalgia. It's possible for your kids to have nostalgia for the life they remember 2 years ago. It's possible for all of us to have nostalgia for the life we remember 12, 14 months ago before COVID happened to us all. Nostalgia is not simply the domain of the old or the aging. It can be the domain of a 35-year-old man at the peak of his physical career, because at that time in his life is changing. And I think we're all familiar with this sentiment. I mean, Neil does, the nice thing, the efficiency of Neil Peart's lyrics is that there's never any lack of clarity of intent. It's clear what he's writing about here. I don't have to dig deep to find meaning. What I try and do is dig deeper to find subtlety of meaning and to highlight the things that speak to me. I think we all relate to this first verse. The idea that sometimes we feel that we've spent so much time fighting against the wind, we've felt so much time pushing on with our lives that we'd like to press pause on them. And as he puts it here, pass an evening with a drink and a friend. There was an insight into Neil Peart. I don't know that we necessarily knew it entirely at the time, but having seen the movie Beyond the Lighted Stage, we know how important it was to him and to this band to sit there at a meal, drink good wine, and pass time together. And then in this second verse, I always loved this line, I let my skin get too thin. I can be a monster. In the writing room, I can be a monster. In life, I can be a monster. I can punch above my weight. I can hand out insult and abuse with the best of them. And I can pretend to be as thick-skinned as you like, but sometimes we all get a little bit thin-skinned. Sometimes we all let life get to us. And do any of us live like this? Like every step was the end? If today had been the last day of my life, I can't honestly say I got the best out of it, the most out of it. I can't honestly say I sucked the marrow from the bones of life today. I can't honestly say that I did that for most of the last year, but there have been moments. There were even moments this week. I'm exhausted. This is my second attempt at doing this video. I've spent the whole week on Zoom consulting with some young writers in Nigeria about some TV movies. And I've learned an incredible admiration for people that have spent the last year on Zoom. But also that's been an exhausting process, but also an incredibly fulfilling one. And just occasionally I've come out of one of those meetings and gone, yeah, kick the ass out of that. Where we started and where we ended were so satisfying that for that moment, at least, there was an element of transcendent. But how often do you get that feeling? And how often do you work for them? And how often could we work for them if we just stopped a little bit and remembered that we can't make time stand still. Therefore, we owe it to ourselves to suck the marrow from the life of our lives in every moment. Even watching a terrible, utterly awful 1980s music video featuring a lovely voice, which I think we're going to hear just now. So that was the moment. Freeze this moment a little bit longer, make each sensation a little bit stronger. And I wept because I wanted that in that moment. And I've talked about how I think this is a song about the nature of nostalgia. Neil didn't think it was that. He said, I'm not looking back. I just want to look around. I want to live in this moment. But I guess one of the other reasons that I wept on that day was because this song meant so much to me because it was part of my history with this band. And that's the other thing I've been trying to find a way to say here in this video. Music is nostalgia. Our response to music is nostalgia, at least in part. My son, in one of our conversational walks, told me something about the science of how we physically hear music and how we can listen to music we're familiar with physically louder than we can music we're unfamiliar with, because the music we're familiar with has carved neural pathways in our brain. It isn't discordant. It sits comfortably because it is known. Whereas new music requires more processing time, more processing speed. It requires more active listening. And so there is a comfort in old music. And I guess that's part of the reason why so many of us are watching reaction videos, because we're looking to hear that music like a baby. We're looking to hear it through the eyes of the person reacting, both to confirm our biases, which is why we like it when they like it, but also because it helps us to just connect with that music. Remember that thing that moved us so much or impressed us so much through the eyes and ears of that other person. Reaction videos are nostalgia. The musical experience is so wrapped up in nostalgia. Where the music transports us to Like with books, I read books multiple times and can be transported back to the first time I read them. Reading the book June, I suddenly find myself in a 1970s combi on the way to Hardebeespoort Dam when I was 15 years old with my nan and granddad. Doesn't matter if I was reading it last year, I'm back there for that moment. Listening to this music, even watching this video, is an expression of nostalgia and connects me to all of those happy feelings and all of those good feelings. So I think that's part of the sensation. I think that's part of the moment that we experience in these things. And I think we don't spend enough time pausing to recognize how important that is and how valuable that is. Neil is claiming no nostalgia here. He's claiming simply the ground of stop and experience the moment. And that's an absolutely valid thought. But I do think that the moment is so wrapped up with all the other moments. The moment we're in now, the relationship that we have with our friends is so wrapped up in all the moments that came before it. I don't think you can completely unravel enjoying the moment from that sense of nostalgia, from that sense of the continuum of our lives. And I think the way music makes us feel, I think it's probably one of our most nostalgic, one of our deepest senses of emotion. And I think that's why we get so defensive and possessive of our music. More on that now. I can't help but smile. I wonder if anybody on that ship in the Suez Canal played this song at any time during that week period when they were at the center of the universe, like some captain whose ship runs aground. I can wait until the tide comes around. Well, that wait proved to be quite uncomfortable for them. This picture of turn your face to the sun, close your eyes, let your defenses down. All the wounds that I can't get unwound. Neil, I say his name like he was an intimate of mine, and somehow he was. He wrote scars of pleasure, scars of pain, atmospheric changes, make them sensitive again. He recognized the sense that we all carry with us wounds, and some of them we can never fully recover from, and his life went on to prove that in spades. There were aspects that he was going to go through that you wonder how he ever processed them. I let my past go too fast. What a great line. How, again, not a line about nostalgia as much as I didn't stop in those moments. I didn't experience those moments enough. I didn't take the time to pause. I wish I could slow it all down. Stand time still so that I can just experience my life now. So nostalgia and that sense of experiencing and enjoying and celebrating the moment. One of the reasons I wanted to do this song somehow is the reaction that I've had to a couple of the previous songs that I've done recently. And that sense of sort of what it is that I get out of them, and the sense of joy that I get out of them, and the sense of frustration at the same time. A lot of the people from some of the communities that come and watch my videos have been watching because I'm listening to the music that they love. I'm experiencing the music that they love, and they want to see me do that, and they want me to appreciate it. and they want me to appreciate it the way that they appreciate it, and they want me to love it the way that they love it. And that's absolutely totally understandable. But at the same time, while asking me to experience their thing for the first time and join them in that journey, they lock themselves only in their own nostalgia and in their own little musical ecosystem, instead of following, if you like, my example, and coming with me and listening to some songs that I love, and hearing new songs in new ways. And that again is because it is so much harder to hear something new, because it's so much more challenging to hear something new. It's so comfortable to hear the familiar, to spend time with the familiar friends, and let the world pause while you just savor that moment. And there's no right or wrong answer here. There's just that desire, I guess, that in that process we recognize that we are making new moments every single day. Every time I listen, I have listened to another song, picked a song and listened to it and dug into it. That song's been in my head for days. I've been singing it in the shower. I've been waking up with it in the morning. It's become part of my neural network and becomes part of my history. And I guess that's the point of these videos, is to take a 5-minute song and spend 25 minutes really experiencing it, really engaging with it. And some people don't like that, and this is not for them, but some people do. And those of you that like that, you're joining me in that journey is thrilling. It feels like we're spending an evening together with a drink and friends. And let's just say, Aimee Mann, she can wail. Great bass run. The innocence slips away along with experience. That's quite sad. That's awful. Terrible video.
More of the people and the places that surround me now.
somebody that knows more about music than I do might be able to explain what it is they do in this last stanza. It's not a middle eight. I think it might be a key change, but that moment when Geddy comes back in with the summer's going fast, nights growing colder, there's a fresh urgency to it that is really quite emotional. And I've no idea what they're doing because I have no musical ability at all. And I'd love to know answers in a postcard, please. But it's really quite moving. And again, 35-year-old man is already feeling that summer's going fast. You know, the idea that he's reaching the sort of summer of his life and moving into the winter of his life. His children are growing up, his friends are growing older, and all he wants to do is live in the moment. Live in the moment. So I don't know if there's very many three pieces where the guitarist does so much hard work sonically as Alex Lifeson, but I do know that that's probably one of the only Rush songs that they ever did where he doesn't do a solo at all, which is quite startling, really, because it's usually such a key part of the emotional landscape of the song. I think Vapor Trails I think there might have been one solo on the whole album, but he did a whole lot of different sonic things with his guitar. He was playing different games. This song is all about, I guess, living in the moment. We can't freeze time. We can't. But what we can do is what's the word of the moment? Not awareness. There's a word for it, and it's gone entirely from my head, but we can live consciously. We can live deliberately. We can take the time to acknowledge the things that give us joy and the people that give us joy. And I guess we can take the time to find things to savor. I try and do that with this process, which means I'm not always going to listen to the songs that other people want me to listen to. And sometimes I'm going to drop back into songs that I love just because that's where my comfort zone is. But I'm always going to be here in this moment, trying to freeze it, trying to make the sensation stronger. And wow, why wouldn't we want to do that? The experience slips away, innocence slips away. But we can keep hold of it every time we play the song that evokes so many memories, including the memory of weeping in the NAC with 15,000 people surrounding me, just for the sheer joy of finally being there among friends. Like the 4 of you that are still listening to this nonsense. And those 4, thank you for doing so. Keep the faith. I'll see you next time.